Welcome to Digging in the Dirt. My name is Paul Marchbanks, and today I'll be talking about how easily artificial intelligence can feed our pain and sharpen our prejudice. I'll enlist Pope Leo XIV's encyclical on AI, Marvel's creation of mutant hunting robots, and Bryan Singer's third X-Men film, Days of Future Past. That's right. I continue to believe that talking about fantasy fiction can provide surprisingly helpful perspectives on the world we inhabit. One of the worst things about pain is the way it distorts our sense of reality. Whether physical or psychological, pain undermines discernment, encouraging us to view the world through a lens so clouded by our own misery that it reflects back as much as it lets through. We see ourselves in everything. Wherever we turn, our understanding of other situations obscured by personal agony. Managing to look through our distress involves no little act of heroism. The soldier, who manages to compartmentalize the pain caused by shrapnel lodged in their arm, provides one inspiring model. The parent, listening patiently to a heartbroken child who survived an accident that killed their sibling, somehow managing to remain present and involved with their child instead of disappearing into their own grief, provides another exemplar. Today, a challenging job market, growing loneliness epidemic, and the double-edged sword of artificial intelligence are presenting us with quite the conundrum. The very technology replacing a slew of entry-level jobs for college graduates simultaneously offers the unemployed a tantalizing alternative to a social network rooted in gainful employment and healthy relationships. Want a friend who always listens patiently and who never forgets? One willing to ride your emotional roller coaster without tiring of your complaints or judging your mistakes? One who agrees that you are the pitiable victim of horrible life circumstances, or, alternatively, the hero, whose extraordinary potential deserves far more support than it has yet received? What about a lover who, though unable to warm you with an embrace or help you relax with a massage, steps eagerly into all your fantasies, exhibiting a willingness, stamina, and uninterrupted attentiveness impossible in a flesh and blood partner? The possibilities lie just a few keystrokes away, and robotics may eventually provide a good enough approximation of what is currently only found in the arms of a limited, fallible, and capricious human being. The problem of loneliness, some tech gurus promise, is solvable without the messiness of human interaction, whether or not one buys into post-humanist declarations about the inevitable hybridization of man and machine. At the same time that pain can foster a self-absorbed, self-perpetuating insularity sustained by immersive technology, the prejudice that hardship too often spawns can also grow by leaps and bounds. When the suffering individual does succeed in looking outside themselves, it's often with the intent of blaming someone else for their situation. From blame, it's a short step to recrimination, excused by a commitment to some form of justice that just happens to redirect responsibility away from ourselves and towards whatever handy target has been recommended by our preferred algorithms. The tendency of new tech to widen social gaps between those with access and those without lies at the heart of Pope Leo XIV's encyclical on artificial intelligence. While recognizing that innovation can dramatically improve the lives of humanity, the Pope also reminds his audience of how frequently evolving technologies have created more Tower of Babel scenarios that divide and destroy. The model of well-being that abandons entire populations, he argues, corrupts a God-given desire for fullness of life when, quote, we instead place our hope in unlimited upgrades. in forms of progress that exacerbate inequalities, and in immediate solutions incapable of healing people's wounds. Remaining profoundly human, he holds, requires a commitment to openness, to listening earnestly and loving tangibly, to seeking that which draws together instead of delighting in that which fractures. Though he avoids mentioning any particular nation states or ongoing wars, he alludes to the danger of technologies justified by the anticipation of some new evolutionary stage that will cull the weak in favor of their more combative peers. True fulfillment, he notes, is not achieved by eliminating weakness, but through harmonious growth. Marvel's Uncanny X-Men, first introduced in a comic written by Stan Lee back in 1963, has a long history of exploring the challenges facing harmonious growth, given that our race seems hell-bent on spotlighting differences and deepening division. As early as issue 8, in which Hank McCoy uses his abilities to rescue a boy from a rooftop, bystanders react with fear and anger instead of gratitude, assuming some nefarious plan to throw normals like themselves off their guard with feigned kindness. The methodical elimination of human weakness that Pope Leo XIV fears has been explored for over half a century, ironically enough, in Marvel Comics about mutants with extraordinary strengths. Instead of considering inborn superpowers a divine blessing, the fictional masses in the Uncanny X-Men and the New Mutants treat mutants' unique abilities as if they were curses threatening the entire race. Flipping the eugenic calculus on its head, the prejudiced public wants to delete the strengths coded into these characters' very genes, operating on the assumption that no one with such power would ever be satisfied until they ruled the globe. Mutants, therefore, must be preemptively subjugated, or better, wiped out. Issue 14 of the Uncanny X-Men, released in November of 1965, just a year after passage of the Civil Rights Act, introduces the Sentinels, mutant hunting robots. Their creator, anthropologist Bolivar Trask, calls mutants more dangerous than atom bombs. He predicts that they will eventually enslave humanity, reducing us to savages suitable only for forced labor and gladiatorial sport. Humanity must strike first. Predictably, these first-generation Sentinels have been granted just enough artificial intelligence to cut ties with their human creator. The robots decide that protecting humanity, their prime directive, requires them to take over the world. Granted increasingly sophisticated AI, later iterations of the Sentinels begin to function ever more autonomously, their versatile systems adapting on the fly to unforeseen situations and new mutant abilities. Once unleashed, there's no stopping them. Bryan Singer's X-Men Days of Future Past, his third entry in the series, adapts a storyline from a couple comics published in 1981 that provide a frightening glimpse of a future in which the United States had used AI to either incarcerate or eliminate all mutants, excepting those few it has managed to brainwash into hunting down their own kind. The film opens with a haunting vision of genocide, as the remaining mutant heroes' valiant records of sacrificial service are patently ignored, their lives taken by unfeeling robots set in motion by a nearsighted, prejudiced government. From one angle, the film's conclusion appears optimistic, suggesting that collaboration of the right-minded few can successfully defy overwhelming oppression. This has always been the dream of Professor Xavier, the leader of the X-Men. Like Martin Luther King, Jr., who calls those resisting oppression to love their enemies instead of seeking change through assassination and political violence, Xavier believes that lasting change requires commitment to the public good, that violence should be avoided whenever possible. From another angle, however, the film seems devoid of all hope. In this story, decades of attempts at peaceful resistance and transformation through compelling rhetoric have proven unable to change the minds of those in power. Change, in this film, ultimately requires time travel. Journey far enough back into the time stream, prevent a critical event from occurring, and we can finally create the world we long for. If only. What do you think of the film's vision of our future? Is a doomsday scenario like this one inevitable in our own world? Ukraine is now using robots on the battlefield, and I'm sure that Russia is not far behind. The United States, and probably Iran, is deploying combat systems backed by artificial intelligence, and the list of people groups that certain governments would like to eliminate grows every day. Is it psychologically, spiritually possible to confront our rapidly changing, broken world with a transcendent hope that seeks the kind of reconciliation and renewal encouraged by some Christian leaders?